The sound of my belongings hitting the driveway echoed through the quiet suburban street. Aunt Diane stood in the doorway of my childhood home, her face twisted with satisfaction as she watched me gather my scattered possessions. "Maybe this will teach you some responsibility," she said, dangling my house keys like a taunt. "Your mother always coddled you too much. That's why she made me executor. She knew you couldn't handle the estate yourself." I carefully folded a fallen sweater, the one Mom had given me last Christmas. "Is that what the will said? That I couldn't handle it?" "The will gave me full discretion," she snapped, "and I'm exercising it. The house is being sold, and the money will be properly managed. By me. My name is Maya Chen, and at 26, I was watching my aunt steal my inheritance in broad daylight. What she didn't know was that I'd seen this coming long before my mother's death 3 months ago. "Well," I said, zipping up my last bag, "I appreciate you being so clear about your intentions." Diane's smirk faltered slightly. She'd expected tears, begging, maybe even a scene that would justify her actions to the neighbors. My calm acceptance clearly unsettled her. "Don't even think about contesting this," she warned. "The paperwork is ironclad. Your mother trusted me to make the right decisions." "No, I thought my mother had trusted you because she was too sick to see what you really were." "But I'd seen it, and I'd spent the last year preparing for exactly this moment." Mom's cancer diagnosis had come as a shock to everyone except Aunt Diane. She'd moved in almost immediately, positioning herself as the devoted sister-in-law, helping manage medical decisions and household affairs. I'd been away at college, finishing my business degree, but something about her sudden devotion had felt off. It wasn't until I came home for spring break and found her going through Mom's financial documents that I understood what was really happening. She'd been laying groundwork, slowly manipulating my mother's trust, positioning herself to take control when the time came. That night, I'd made 2 phone calls. The first was to James Chen, no relation, a family friend and corporate lawyer who'd helped my father build his business before he passed away. The second was to my best friend Sophie, who worked as a forensic accountant. "Your aunt's been busy," Sophie had told me after reviewing the documents I'd managed to copy. "She's already set up 3 separate LLCs and started transferring assets. Classic preparation for asset stripping. Can we stop her?" I asked. "Not directly, not while she has your mom's power of attorney. But we can build a parallel structure, create something she can't touch." And that's exactly what we'd done. For the past year, while Aunt Diane thought I was focused on finishing college, I'd been quietly building something she'd never see coming. Now, standing in the driveway of my childhood home, I watched her close the door on what she thought was her final victory. She had no idea she'd just given me exactly what I needed. Clear, documented proof of her intentions. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to James. "It's done." She took the bait. His response came immediately. "Meeting in 30 minutes. Bring everything." I drove to James's office downtown, my car packed with the belongings Diane had so ceremoniously evicted. The modern glass building felt a world away from the suburban drama I'd just left behind. "Right on time," James said as I entered his conference room. Sophie was already there, laptop open, along with 2 other people I recognized from our planning sessions, Michael from the SEC and Sarah from the district attorney's office. "She did exactly what we predicted," I said, setting my phone on the table. "I recorded everything." She explicitly stated her intention to sell the house and manage the money herself. Sarah nodded, making notes. "Perfect. That's the last piece we needed." The recording, combined with the documentation of her asset transfers over the past year, gives us a clear pattern of financial abuse. "What she doesn't know," Sophie added, turning her laptop so I could see the screen, "is that we've been tracking every move. Every shell company, every hidden account, every manipulated document. It's all here." I looked at the complex web of transactions she'd mapped out. Diane had been thorough, I had to give her that. She'd spent months setting up her scheme, probably thinking her business degree and real estate license made her smarter than everyone else. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. My father hadn't just been a successful businessman. He'd been an expert at corporate structure and asset protection. And before he died, he taught me everything he knew. "Show her," James said to Sophie. Sophie pulled up another screen, this one showing a different set of business entities and transactions. "While your aunt was busy stealing your inheritance the old-fashioned way, we built something much more sophisticated." There it was. Peterson Innovation Group, the company I'd officially founded 6 months ago using the trust fund my father had left me. The one asset Diane hadn't known about because Dad had set it up through a separate law firm. The best part, Sophie continued, is that we used her own playbook against her. Every time she set up a shell company, we created a parallel structure. Every property she tried to transfer, we established a competing claim. It's all perfectly legal, completely documented, and absolutely bulletproof. And now that she's explicitly stated her intentions to sell the house, Sarah added, we can move forward with the fraud charges. I sat back, feeling the weight of the past year's secret work finally lifting. What happens next? Michael from the SEC spoke up for the first time. We move fast. The documentation shows she's already trying to list the house. Once she enters into a contract with a real estate agent, we've got her on multiple felony counts, attempted fraud, elder abuse, fiduciary misconduct. And the inheritance? I asked. James smiled. That's where it gets interesting. Remember those 3 shell companies she set up? Turns out they're all subsidiary to Peterson Innovation Group. She just doesn't know it yet. Everything she thought she was stealing, she's actually been transferring it right back to you. I couldn't help but laugh. Dad would have appreciated the irony. One more thing, Sophie said, pulling out a file. Remember that rental property she convinced your mom to sign over last month? We found some interesting discrepancies in the paperwork. Looks like she forged your mother's signature, and we can prove it. The pieces were all falling into place, just as we planned. While Diane had been playing checkers, thinking she was so clever, we'd been playing chess. When did we move? I asked. First thing tomorrow, Sarah replied. We'll need you to come down to the station to make a formal statement. Once that's done, we can execute the warrants. I nodded, thinking about Diane in my childhood home, probably already on the phone with real estate agents, completely unaware of what was coming. Maya, James said softly, your mom would be proud. You handled this exactly the way your father would have. Patient, strategic, and always 3 steps ahead. I touched the locket I wore, the one containing photos of both my parents. They taught me well. Dad always said the best offense is a good offense, and Mom taught me that sometimes you have to let people show their true colors before you can deal with them properly. As I drove to my apartment that night, the one Diane didn't know about, paid for through Peterson Innovation Group, I thought about how different things would look tomorrow. The aunt who thought she'd throw me out on the street was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. The next morning dawned crisp and clear. I arrived at the police station early, dressed in the same business suit I'd worn to Mom's funeral. Detective Sarah Morgan was waiting for me, case files spread across her desk. Ready? She asked as I sat down. I nodded, pulling out my phone with the recorded conversation from yesterday. More than ready. For the next 2 hours, I gave my official statement, documenting every step of Diane's scheme. The forged signatures, the manipulated bank transfers, the careful grooming of my mother during her illness. All of it laid out in precise, devastating detail. This is one of the most well-documented cases of estate fraud I've seen, Sarah said, reviewing my statement. Most people don't realize what's happening until it's too late. I had good teachers, I replied, thinking of Dad's lessons about business protection and Mom's quiet wisdom about watching people's actions rather than listening to their words. At exactly 10 a.m., 3 police cars pulled up to my childhood home. I watched from Sarah's unmarked vehicle as officers approached the door. Diane answered wearing her real estate agent outfit, clearly preparing to show the house she had no right to sell. The look on her face as they read her rights was almost worth everything she put us through. Almost. Maya, she shrieked, spotting me in the car. What is this? What have you done? I stepped out, maintaining my composure as Sarah had advised. I haven't done anything, Aunt Diane. You did this yourself. Every forged signature, every hidden account, every lie you told Mom while she was dying. You did all of that. Her face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little. Your mother wanted me to handle things. She knew you weren't ready. Actually, James said, appearing from his car with a folder. We have evidence that you manipulated those documents. The real estate transfer from last month. Our forensics team found conclusive proof that you forged your sister-in-law's signature. She was in the hospital that day, heavily sedated. Couldn't have signed anything. Diane's face went pale. That's not. And then there's the matter of the shell companies, Sophie added, joining us. Very clever setup, by the way. Except for one small detail, they all trace back to Peterson Innovation Group, which belongs to Maya. Peterson? What? Diane looked confused, then horrified as understanding dawned. No, that's impossible. I checked everything. Did you? I asked quietly, or did you just assume you were the smartest person in the room? Dad taught me a lot about business structures before he died. Mom taught me about patience. And you? You taught me to always have a backup plan. The officers led her to the police car, still protesting her innocence. I watched as they drove away, feeling strangely empty. This wasn't a victory to celebrate, it was the sad end of another chapter of loss. Inside the house, everything was exactly as Mom had left it. Family photos on the walls, her favorite reading chair by the window, even her gardening magazine still open on the coffee table. Diane hadn't changed anything yet, probably too busy planning her big sale. We'll need to document everything, Sarah said gently. Evidence for the case. I nodded, moving through the rooms of my childhood home. In Mom's office, we found more evidence of Diane's schemes, drafted sales contracts, listings she prepared, even brochures for retirement communities where she planned to stash Mom's antique furniture for safekeeping. The most damning discovery came in a hidden folder on her laptop. Emails dating back over a year, showing how she planned everything while Mom was still relatively healthy. She'd been positioning herself to take control long before the cancer made Mom vulnerable. This explains why she moved in so quickly, Sophie said, reviewing the emails. She'd been planning it for months, just waiting for the right moment. The investigation moved quickly after that. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Diane accepted a plea deal, 5 years in prison, full restitution, and permanent revocation of her real estate license. The hardest part was facing the family. Mom's siblings were horrified when they learned what their sister-in-law had done. They'd all trusted her, believed her stories about protecting the family assets from my supposed irresponsibility. We should have seen it, my Uncle David said when I showed him the evidence. All those times she talked about protecting Helen's interests, she was really just protecting her access to the money. Peterson Innovation Group, meanwhile, had grown beyond its original purpose as a protection against Diane's schemes. The business structures we created to shield my inheritance had attracted attention from other families facing similar situations. You should consider expanding, James suggested during a meeting 6 months later. There's a real need for this kind of protection. Your father would have loved the irony, turning Diane's attempted theft into a legitimate business helping other families. He was right. Within a year, Peterson Innovation Group had evolved into a specialized consulting firm, helping families protect their assets from predatory relatives and fraudulent executors. Every case reminded me of Mom, of how vulnerable even smart people can be when faced with illness and manipulation. I kept the house, of course. Restored Mom's garden, maintained Dad's study exactly as he'd left it. Some things are worth more than money, something Diane had never understood. 1 year to the day after Diane's arrest, I received a letter from her. The prison return address made my stomach turn, but I opened it anyway. Maya, I've had a lot of time to think about what I did. The counselors here say I should take responsibility, show remorse. But the truth is, I'm mostly angry at myself for underestimating you. You're more like your father than I ever realized. I won't ask for forgiveness. We both know I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I finally understand what Helen and David saw in you. The quiet strength, the strategic mind, the patience to wait for the right moment. You beat me at my own game, and you did it without compromising who you are. Asterisk Diane. I filed the letter away with the rest of the case documents. Her recognition meant nothing. The aunt who'd helped raise me, who'd been at every birthday and graduation, had died the moment she decided to betray my mother's trust. The following spring, I established the Helen Chen Foundation, focusing on supporting families affected by cancer and financial abuse. Its first initiative was a program helping terminal patients protect their estates from manipulation. Your mom would love this, Sophie said during the foundation's launch event. Using what happened to help other families, it's exactly what she would have wanted. She was right. Mom had always taught me that the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making sure the same thing doesn't happen to someone else. I still wear the locket with their photos. But now, when I look at their faces, I don't just see what I lost. I see what they gave me. Dad's business acumen, Mom's patient wisdom, and the strength to stand up for what's right, even when it hurts. Diane had thought she was taking my inheritance. Instead, she'd given me the opportunity to build something bigger than myself. A legacy that would help others protect what matters most. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit in Mom's reading chair and think about how differently things might have turned out if Diane had just been honest. If she'd worked with me instead of against me, we might have built something together. But she chose her path, and I chose mine. And in the end, that's what inheritance is really about, not just the money or property we leave behind, but the lessons we teach and the examples we set. Dad taught me to be strategic. Mom taught me to be patient. And Diane, she taught me that sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones we need to guard against most carefully. It's not the lesson she intended to teach, but it's one I'll never forget.